Hope you're having a great weekend. This is Leading Edge. I'm Dan Cummins in for Jerry Anderson. Later in the program, we'll see the honor flight schedule for this year. We have two guests from Flag City Honor Flight. But first, February is Black History Month. We'll have with us Earl Mack this morning and afternoon. He spent his life in public service, Army medic during the Vietnam era, the long career in law enforcement. Now he's president of the Buffalo Soldiers, riding motorcycles and doing great things for Toledo. I asked him about the Buffalo Soldiers' connection to Black history.
Oh, most definitely, and especially for the Buffalo Soldiers, because it gives us an opportunity to represent that history, to talk about that history, especially to our kids that are in school, and just live that history. So Black History Month for us is great, and I always say too, not only Black History Month for all year long. We just recognize it during February.
Earl, your whole life has been centered around service to others with the organization. Now we'll talk about that later on, but the amazing impact you've had in your life with a career in law enforcement. What made you go into that? Was it we'll talk about your time in Vietnam as a medic. Did that kind of develop some sense of honor and some sense of duty to your country?
Well, being a soldier does back in those days, and given those kinds of responsibility as a medic, and my permanent duty station though was in Fort Benning, Georgia. I was attached to the hospital there, where we treated a whole lot of vets coming back from Vietnam with a whole lot of conditions. And so it gave you a really great sense of honor to be able to talk to those soldiers, and they talk back to you about all their experiences, and you're able to be a cushion for them. So that was a great experience. Vietnam itself, the unit was there, but at the time that President Nixon was pulling everybody out. So there's things we had to pull out and go home.
So you're discharged from the Army finally, and then you decided to become a police officer. What were decision making there, and how did you get there?
Well, even before I became a police officer, I used to be a musician. I played gospel music. I was a drummer, and one day what caused me to leave music was an incident that happened with one of my brothers, and I was so down in it about it. And my uncle, who was the prison warden of the Dayton prison at that time, talked with me, and he says, "Have you ever thought about using your GI Bill to go to school and so forth and so on? And this is the good profession to come, to get into." So based off of that, I met Sheriff Tell. Sheriff Tell was one of the professors in those days, and I enrolled in the University of Toledo. Graduated from Toledo, went to the University of Louisville, the Southern Police Institute for supervision, and became a liquor agent for the state of Ohio.
That had to be some challenging times, liquor agent?
Yes, challenging and fun times too. But you're responsible for all the liquor enforcement in the state of Ohio. Most of the enforcement at that time was either cheat spots, as we call illegal liquor operations that operate at night, and young folks buying alcohol. So, and I worked undercover for almost 7 years as a drug agent with the Federal Drug Enforcement Agency.
What kind of stories can you tell us about that experience?
A lot of stories there, and I always talk about this story to police officers. As an undercover officer, you have to be tough, and if you have a target, you work that target. And one day, I'll just say this real quick. One day, I'm with my partner, Ron Lewis, and we're in this Cleveland bar, and a lot of dope is being sold and so forth and so on. And we're playing that role with the gold and Cadillac sitting outside and stuff. And so a female bartender she wanted to date me. Well, you can't date anybody in those days, so I would always play it off. And when the guy came in, and he looked down at me and he talked to her and he told her that, how you know that these guys aren't cops? So she came down and told me that. This is going to be a weird story. And so when she told me that, I looked at Aaron. I said, I'm going to watch this guy. He goes into the restroom, and our things to watch me, I always rub my eye, which means Ron watch me. So I go into the restroom after him. Okay, I think the statute of limitations have ran out on this, and so he's standing there, whizzing, and so I walked up to him and said, I heard you told this young lady we're cops, and I took a piece of steel I had and placed it someplace, and I said, let me tell you something, you're going to screw up our operation and so forth. Guess what? He on himself and all of that stuff, but he became our best informant after that. And we were able to clean up a lot of drug operations in East Cleveland, simply because of that operation. But undercover stuff, liquor stuff, there's a lot of things there, a lot of heartbreaking things with dealing with families with kids that have alcohol, that had crashes and so forth and so on. And the patrol would always call us out as well when we have DUI crashes on the turnpike, and so there's a lot of good stories there, and a lot of stories that's kind of heart-wrenching as well.
Now you're with Key Resource Protection and Investigations. So you're talking about you're still working with bars and training them, bartenders, how to properly handle themselves?
Absolutely. If a bar gets cited, a lot of times they'll call me in. I do training first. And then after training, we then do an exercise where we'll send somebody in, depending upon the violation, and see if they've learned anything yet. And if so, they pass the test, and we make sure that they have policies, because a lot of your bars and alcohol places don't have policies, and so we help them put together a policy so that they don't find themselves in that same situation again.
All about public service.
That's it.
More with Earl Mack after this break, and we're joined by longtime Toledo radio host Fred LeFebvre. That's next on Leading Edge. Welcome back. This is Black History Month, and the Buffalo Soldiers are a motorcycle club that devotes its time and resources making Toledo a better place to live. Here's Earl Mack and Fred LeFebvre. So, Fred, how long have you known Earl, and how did you wind up being the public information officer for the Buffalo Soldiers?
Well, I've actually known Earl personally, probably for about 6 or 7 years, I think. I first heard him speak at Notre Dame Academy when my daughter was a student there. He came in and gave a talk when he was an alcohol agent about parents' responsibility when it came to year-end parties and stuff. And I thought then, wow, this is a smart guy. He knows what he's talking about. And then I had heard through my radio show that he was a member of a club, president of the club, that was doing good work in the community. And one of the things I've always talked about is don't wait for somebody to step up and do it for you. Don't wait for the government to come along. You see a problem, solve it. And that's what they were doing. So I started to get involved, talk about it more often on the show, had him in as a guest, and actually started to go out on some of the events that they were doing. And then the next thing I know, I was a PIO. It was like being in the armed forces. You don't really volunteer, but you get volunteered. And then after that, I became the secretary. So I'm holding 2 positions now.
So talk about his transition to becoming a Buffalo Soldier.
Well, when we first met too, we were on the air with the Vietnam vets, mm-hmm. and talking about that, and the way he interviewed, I said, man, I can't like the way this guy talks. So we started calling him about this and that, and started reeling him in a little bit more, because I know he liked community service, and took him here. And lo and behold, I asked Fred one day, I said, would you like to be a part of our organization? Don't just wear that supporter shirt, wear a patch on your back. And we got approval from the national to have him come on board to be a regular member, because if you didn't ride a motorcycle, you had to be an associate member or something. Yeah. And so he became a regular member. And since we've had him, he's a great secretary. He's a great PIO.
Take great notes.
Take great notes. And we have a national organization with the Buffalo Soldier Post around the country, and he gives advice media-wise, and he's just a great member.
They do the things that I've always thought that organizations ought to do. They're all volunteer, for one thing. They rely on the community. We rely on the community. We rely on our collaborative partners for everything that we do. We couldn't do anything without that help from, well, for instance, Chef Regnus, off the rails. When we go out to feed a family or a group of people like the YWCA, it's Chef Regnus that comes along. When we need funds, we have people out there who are willing to give us whatever it is we need to carry out our service. And we do a ton of stuff. I mean, we have 4 schools that we've adopted. Old West End Academy, Martin Luther King Jr. Academy for boys, the LP Stewart Academy for girls, and Pickett Elementary. And so those are the schools that we focus on. We'll go out to any school and teach the classes in gun safety, what to do when stopped by police, emergency preparedness, anti-bullying, all of those things. But those 4 schools are the ones that we've kind of adopted as our own.
So Operation Without a Home, the Christmas Angel Tree Wish, and the gun violence you talked about. I mean, that's a very important part of our community, and you guys are doing such great work.
I got to tell you, the gun violence one, we talked to a group of first graders through 4th graders. And, you know, that little girl that got shot in the car about a year and a half ago. We got finished, and one of the last things we tell the kids is if you hear gunshots, you hit the floor. If you're in a car, take your seatbelt off and hit the floor. There's no place you can run, and that's the safest place to be, is the smallest target. This little boy came up when we were done. He came up to me, and he was in tears. And he said, geez, I wish my sister had heard that message. It was his sister that had been shot in that car. So I knew that was the first time that we did that one for a bunch of kids. I knew right then that we were having an impact. That makes it all worthwhile.
And the Christmas giving.
The Christmas giving is we one of our things is gaining trust of our children, trusting us, because we see them on the street, we can talk to them. So the Christmas giving is our angel tree wish, which each child that participates in this program is given an angel. We want to know exactly what they want for Christmas. We don't want to just pile up some toys and you come pick them. And so we give them exactly what they want with all the supporters that Fred talked about. We have just tons of supporters out there. The Rotary clubs, Mommy Rotary Club, are just great with us during that Christmas season. And so when those kids get those toys that they want, you should just see them when we take them to them schools and they come pick their toys up. And it builds trust between us and those children. So I don't care what happens with them. We can go into a school and talk to the children. As a matter of fact, just recently I went into a particular school because it was having problems out of this 13-year-old boy. When I sit down and talk to him, because of what we'd done, he listened to me. He listened well. And it was one of the boys that would have been involved in these kids that were just shot. These 2 boys, they were his friends, were able to gain some information because of the trust of this kid. So that's why we do the things we do.
That's why we go into the school so often. When we go in, we demand respect. Teachers can't always be as stern as we are. Okay, that's one of the things I like. If the kids are acting up, I'm not going to take any crap from them. I see the teacher standing over on the edge and she's a little afraid to say something. Well, we're not. We're there to help them, and we're going to make sure that they understand that. And this year for Christmas, we served about 400 children that got gifts. But even more to what we do in the schools is we teach them the history of the original Buffalo soldiers, because as we tell them constantly, especially now during February when it's Black History Month, this isn't Black history, all right? The colored troops, as they called them back then, the all-black troops, whatever you want to call them, that's not Black history. That's American history that we're not teaching. You know, it might get glossed over, but these are people that you can look up to, that you can respect. And the people in the club, well, Earl, 40 years, law enforcement, military career. Badger, our quartermaster, 26 years in the Army, building and tearing apart tanks. So many law enforcement and ex-law enforcement and ex-military people in the Buffalo Soldiers that are an example to those kids of what you can do. Not what you have to do, but what you can do if you take the opportunity afforded you.
Fred LeFebvre and Earl Mack from the Buffalo Soldiers on all the great things they do for Toledo. Let's take another break here. Coming back, Flag City Honor Flight planning 4 trips to Washington, D.C. this year. That's coming up next on Leading Edge. Honor Flight began nationally in 2005 when the World War II Memorial was built. Chapters sprouted across the country, expanding on a great idea to get those veterans to D.C. Well, Flag City Honor Flight began in 2010. Even with a 2-year shutdown for COVID, 1,400 veterans from all over Northwest Ohio and Southeast Michigan have taken the free trip to see the memorials. I want to welcome Steve Schult and the new president, and Bob Weinberg, director of Flag City Honor Flight. Gentlemen, 4 flights this year. Last year we took 3. I've been on 10 of these flights, and I got to tell you, I got to be honest, I enjoy every single flight as much as the first one. They never get old. We'll talk about that a little bit later, about the impact that has on veterans. But talk about the strain on your volunteer staff getting together 4 flights this year.
Well, it'll be interesting. We haven't done it before. So we're all kind of anticipating a great season too. We've had a little bit of a rollover of our board members at the end of last year's season. We've had a few new ones come on, and that's one of the things we want to talk about is Steve coming on in a leadership role as president of Flag City Honor Flight. But with the new blood, we have new ideas, fresh ideas, and a good opportunity to refocus on who we are and what we do and how we do it, and see if we can do it better. So we think we can. We're trying some new things this year that will help us put more people on the plane quicker, I guess, a little bit more easier, so that we're not draining all the lifeblood out of our people.
Your volunteers.
More volunteers, more board members, get more people involved.
Steve, what drew you to Honor Flight in the first place? It just, the more you're around these people, and you feel the same way I do, it's infectious, the passion for their country and veterans and paying them back for what they've done for our country.
Yeah, Dan, I'm a retired partner from Gilmore, Jason, and Mahler, and when we went to Findlay and formed an office there, we kind of adopted Flag City Honor Flight as our charity that we were really looking to help. And as part of that, I went on a flight as a guardian, and I had a Vietnam vet. And at the same time, my father-in-law, who was a Korean War vet, he went, and his guardian was one of his grandsons. And 2 things I learned from that. Number 1, I learned how the Vietnam vets didn't have the greatest reception the first time they came home from Vietnam. And I guarantee you the reception they get when they come back from Honor Flight is much different, and it's very important to them. The second thing is, you know, what the veterans get out of this is incredible. My father-in-law talked about this flight until the day he died. So it's just really fun and interesting, and it's an honor to be part of this whole thing.
It's a great day. It's a 1-day trip. It's early morning out of Toledo Express Airport. Flag City Honor Flight's based out of Findlay, but it comes out of Toledo on the trips. And they fly into the airport, and they get a great reception. Then they spend the day going to all the memorials. It's just a wonderful experience for everybody. Tell me what we're seeing here.
Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, Arlington National Cemetery. I've been there a couple of times.
Yeah.
One thing Bob won't tell you is he was a sentinel, was a guard at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. So
and there's the group of the veterans, usually around 75 to 80 veterans. You know, we'll show the schedule for the season in just a moment, but tell me about, I know that when we were flying in 2019, we had a good number of World War II veterans, and now that we're on the other side of the pandemic, there are very few left.
Very few. 2019, we took 45 World War II veterans.
Really?
Last year, we took 2 in 3 flights. In 19 was 2 flights. We took 45 veterans, 20 on the first flight in June and 25 on the September flight. And last year we did 3 flights. One was all Vietnam, but we don't have World War II veterans on our waiting list.
Well, let's show the schedule now for this coming year and let everybody take a look and see what the flights are. Now, starting off in April, then in June.
September 12th and November 7th. Our June flight is a sponsored flight. We have an individual that came out as an individual and not a corporation and sponsored an entire flight themselves.
Will that be everyone eligible, or is it all Vietnam vets?
It's all Vietnam veteran for that. So it's the Templin family, And they did that in honor of a good friend of theirs, Scott Atkins, who is a dentist in Findlay. So they wanted to make it a all-Vietnam flight. Scott served in Vietnam, and so it's great. It's a sponsored flight, and it's the June flight this year.
Steve, is there still a backlog of Vietnam veterans? Because there's more numbers there, and with the flights, especially with COVID, the break we had, is there a long waiting list?
Yeah, right now, Dan, we have 550 people on the wait list. Now, some of those are Korea, but probably maybe 40 of them are Korea, the rest of them.
And they'll get priority, right?
They get priority, yes.
So as we're getting toward the downside of this, we're trying to, the older veterans get priority, go right to the front. So if you apply tomorrow as a veteran from the Korean War, you'll go to the front of the line?
Correct. Yep, we try to get them on as soon as we can for obvious reasons. But the other important thing is, the Vietnam veterans aren't getting any younger either.
No.
So that's adds to the urgency for us this year of trying to get as many on as we can.
In time, veterans from the Gulf War will get some exposure to that, but not quite yet.
Yeah, yes, we think so. So there is the protocol, World War II first, Korea, Vietnam. Then there's the other, which is post-Vietnam War. What we try to do with Flag City Honor Flight is get those people that are interested in going to come as guardians. There's nothing better than having a service member be a guardian for a Korean vet or a World War II vet. It's pretty cool.
Guys, thanks so much, Steve and Bob. We'll take a timeout and be right back on Leading Edge. If you're a veteran and would like to go on an honor flight this year, the website is flagcityhonorflight.org. Just have to serve in uniform, serve your country to be eligible. I'm Dan Cummins. Thank you for watching Leading Edge.